So I will tell you, uh, I left the Army and I went to the airlines. And when I was there, I couldn't stand being, all I wanted to be was an airline pilot. Then I became an airline pilot and just hated it. I thought it was just a terrible job for me. It's a great job for somebody else, but for me, it was just not the right job. And I left that and really had a crossroads in my life. Everybody's had a Y in the road where you can't take both directions. You got to pick one. And I went to a paint company called Century Coatings, and they had a Cessna 421. And and it was eating their lunch on maintenance. I mean, literally go on a flight, come back, go on to the maintenance hangar, go on a flight, come back to the maintenance hangar. It was just terrible. And so they said, well, what should we get? And this was before I even came to the company. And I said, and I went and did my market research like everybody else in this room did, and said, what's the efficient machine to get one or two or three people around? And the answer is a PA-46. You're gonna fall on a PA-46 if you're efficiency minded. And that brought me into this wonderful, wonderful world of the PA-46. And for 8 years, I flew a Mirage around the country at 500 hours a year. So in 8 years, I had 4,000 hours of PA-46 time and began to do instruction, began to do different things. And people started calling, and thank you for people that make my phone ring and make our company's phone ring. So we appreciate it. We've got a bunch of people here. It's not just the Joe show. I think we brought 8 people here, and I wanted everybody to be able to meet everybody from maintenance to Stephanie, who answers the phone for us, to we've literally got a bunch of people here because you are critical to what we do. And if I go back in time, I would tell you about some of the scarier times that I've had. If I were to be quite blunt with you, everybody's got times where you were just really scared in the cockpit. I can name 10 times easily off the top of my head where I don't really know how I got out of it, except for the fact that, I was lucky or had grace or just a good deal. But one of those was dealing with a thunderstorm. And I was at like 20,000 feet coming out of Florida. And I had some people in the back of the airplane. Thank goodness, most of them had their seatbelt on. But it was a word you're going to hear from me today, the phrase of an embedded thunderstorm. Is there embedded means you have a thunderstorm that's embedded in a cloud layer that you're in the cloud layer. You can't tell where the thunderstorm is unless you really know what you're doing. I had an RDR 2000 on the airplane, and I was swinging it and flying along, but I was real careful where I was going, and I thought I was pretty smart about everything. But flying along, I think I had 4 people on the airplane. And it was one of those where I saw on the radar an image come on pretty quick. And I had just a few seconds to look back. And about that time, hit something that just caused everything in the airplane to pin up against the roof of the aircraft. And everything slammed back down. And that was it. That was all there was. Unfortunately, there was a lady in the back of the airplane that didn't have her seatbelt on. And of course, she got pinned up to the ceiling, came flying back down, and slammed her ankle against something that was in the cooler or something that was in the aircraft. And it was that time when that was the worst of the flight for sure. As a matter of fact, that was the worst of the flight for the decade for me. But it was enough to scare the padoodle out of me. And what really happened on that? And I want to talk about that for a little bit because I had downlinkable radar and I had onboard radar. And this was some years ago, but still, the radar that's on that airplane is on a lot of your airplanes today. And I think everybody that's out there can tell a story about a thunderstorm, can tell something about it. And the reason why you can do that is because there's some thunderstorm truths. One of those thunderstorm truths is that if you look at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the nuclear bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki have the same energy expenditure in an average thunderstorm. Think about that for just a little bit. An average thunderstorm is the same as a nuclear bomb. And there's 30,000 thunderstorms a day all over our globe. It's an absolute incredible number if you think about that. That's the amount of energy that's going through there. is just ridiculous. John Mariani tells this story, and I've had similar people in my background of people that have been in urban warfare that literally are in streets of Baghdad shooting and fighting in urban warfare. And I've had those same people that have been flown in a thunderstorm. And many of those people say they'd rather go back to Baghdad and fight a battle than they would go back into a thunderstorm and fight the thunderstorm. So I do want to say this, and I don't want to be the big doom and gloom guy. That's not me today, because you're going to hear two messages. Number one, thunderstorms are absolutely dangerous. We're going to talk about it. Number two, they're all over our globe. This is something you just got to deal with. We got to figure it out. To say, I'll never fly on a day where there's thunderstorms means you're never going to fly your airplane. There's thunderstorms all over the place. The question is, how are you going to find them? And so PMOPA came to me and said, will you give a class on onboard radar? And I first had that little tight feeling in me, because this isn't my place of expertise. This is my place of, I'm going to tell you what I do, and I'm going to tell you the truth, the way I approach this. And hopefully it comes across to you in a way that's wise. First off, we got to talk about a thunderstorm. We got to talk about how a thunderstorm develops. And I'm going way down. We're going down to 5th grade, 6th grade here, okay? But it's kind of fun, and I hate to go here, except for the fact that I didn't know what I'm about to talk about. And I bet 90% in the room know, but we have water. And how does this water, when we talk about energy being expended, what do we really mean? Of course, you got 3 states of water: solid, liquid, and a gas or vapor. And if you talk about solid to a liquid, that is, thank you. And if you go liquid to a gas, it is evaporation. Okay, I'll buy it. Gas to a liquid would be condensation. Liquid to a solid is good. Now, to go from a solid to a gas is, hey, I was actually thinking no one was going to answer. And while we're on it, I thought no one would say a word on that one, but that's good. What is gas to a solid? I found something. Deposition. So if we talk about that and you put them all up there, deposition, the idea that, and most people, if I'm given a check ride and I ask this question on a check ride, no one gets deposition or sublimation. They're like, really? You can go from a solid to a gas or a gas to a solid? It's like, yeah, if you look at frost on your windshield in the morning, how did that frost get there? That's below freezing. The temperature and the dew point are both below freezing. And whenever the temperature hits the dew point, you get, I got visible moisture. That's the right answer, not condensation. You get visible moisture. And if the temperature and the dew point are both below freezing, then you're going to get frost all over your airplane. You know what I'm saying? And if you start your propeller and the temperature is below freezing, the propeller will move air over that solid and it will turn into a gas. It'll sublimate. You get the point? And as all this moves around, here's the point that most people don't get, and I didn't really get it. And that not only, but for you to have a change of state, you also have energy that's expended. And so let's talk about this. If you sweat, if you get sweat on your body, that water came from your skin, came from your body, which is 98.6 degrees, and it comes out on your skin. How does it cool your skin? The act of evaporation. Okay, so the water leaves your skin. So if you live in Phoenix, this system works great. I mean, it just evaporates so fast. If you live in Houston, Texas, Paul Stefaniak, are you in here? There he is right there. Doesn't work so good, does it? Because there's no evaporation. And so you get the idea of water leaving your skin and this change. But what people forget about is that it goes the other way too. So if you have evaporation, we're releasing heat. And if you have condensation, we're bringing heat into the equation. And don't forget that little part right there. Condensation is where you take heat from and bring it into the equation. And that's what's going to cause, that's the fuel that's going to drive a thunderstorm. If you think about a thunderstorm, what we're doing is you have a cloud. Now a cloud, you don't condense into a cloud. Cloud's just where the temperature reaches this dew point and you have visible moisture. It's a gas. That's why it floats up in the air. But you can continue to have this updraft into the cloud And as it goes up into the cloud, if you get condensation, heat is brought into the cloud. And now you have more, because hot air always, man, y'all are good. I'm going to find one here. I got some prizes up here for people that respond. So if I can get a one response, I'll start throwing hats at you. But what we end up with is our atmosphere. And if you look at the very bottom, down here at the very bottom, you can see a little tiny thunderstorm. It's actually not a tiny one, it's a big one. Because if the cloud draws up moisture inside of it, it gets condensation, heat's brought into the cloud, and the heat inside the cloud is now warmer than just above the cloud, because the temperature as you go up normally gets cooler, and we measure that stability by what's called the, man, y'all are good. This is a good crowd. By the lapse rate. So if it gets colder as you go up, then the temperature in the cloud is warmer than what's just on top of it, and we have lifting action that's occurring. We have upwards air. And the upwards and downwards movement of air we call, hey, who said that? That was the first time I've had a one response. So you get convection. If you get the right and left movement of air, we call it, you don't get two hats. So advection, fog, or convective signet, right? Okay, so what happens here is you can see with the yellow line that in the troposphere, where you're living right now, as you go up, the temperature gets colder and colder normally. Now, this is important because a thunderstorm will grow because above the thunderstorm is colder, and the temperature is warmer inside the cloud because we have condensation that causes heat, latent heat is what we call it, to go into the cloud. So I get this rising action that happens. And as it goes up, eventually we hit the tropopause. And about the tropopause is where the temperature begins to go either equalize or go up at the tropopause. So this is kind of the lid for all the thunderstorms that are out there, is the tropopause. And around the equator, it's higher, and around the North and South Pole, it's much lower. And where we live, 30 to 36,000, somewhere in that ballpark is where we're at. So the tropopause is the lid on the thunderstorm, right? So if we go look at a thunderstorm like this one, like this group that's over here on the right, I would call this fairly run-of-the-mill thunderstorms that are definitely there, and they're real, and you don't want to fly through them, but notice they're all about 30,000. So how do we get one like this one on the left? Look at the height of that one on the left. This is very near my hometown. I remember when this occurred, it was like, I got to get a picture of this, because this bad boy was rolling in 60,000 feet, 55,000. With, you can see where it has the thunderstorm, the tornadoes that is forecasting inside here. This is a monster storm. How does a storm get to 60,000 feet? And the answer is the updrafts are so severe in this storm, or any of these storms, that literally the air rushing up, because it's so less dense, is going so fast up because it's colder air above and less dense. It's rushing up at such a pace that the air next to it's not rushing up. Some of that's rolling down, and the friction in the air will cause a lightning bolt to occur. Think about that for just a little bit. Horrendous upward movement of air. So much so that even if you got pea-sized hail, we're talking about air that's going up at 24 miles an hour, straight up, just a column of air. That's plenty to rip your wings off. That's plenty of upwards air, depending upon your airspeed. You enter that at a high speed, you'll create plenty of lift to rip your wings completely off the airplane. And we're talking about, if you've got softball-sized hail, we're talking about an upward movement of air at 100 miles an hour. That's not talking about 100 miles an hour moving right and left. We're talking about air that's going straight up in the air at 100 miles an hour. We're talking about unbelievable forces. And if you think about water weighing 8 pounds a gallon, and you start doing the math on this energy that's going off in this thunderstorm, it's just, again, it's more than a nuclear bomb that's going off. But here's the deal. We got to go flying around these things. So how do we learn, how do we know what to do when we have this kind of a problem? And the answer is we don't do it real good. If you go into one of these, and this is I don't want it to sound bad because this is the worst I'm going to get as far as painting a bad picture. The bottom line is you fly into a thunderstorm, you're probably not going to live through it. We have a bad history of this, of just things going really, really poorly. And this is probably the worst picture that I can come up with. But this is a PA-46, and you can see where the wings are completely gone, and whoever was inside here had no chance whatsoever. And you don't want this to be you. So you want to find those storms. How do you go about finding them? And the answer is you're going to use radar. And here's what I'm going to talk about today. Ben Hogan. I looked up the best golf swing that I could find, and it's Ben Hogan. But before I talk about Ben Hogan, I want to talk about bowling. Do I have anybody in the room that's like on a bowling league? Oh, good. Then we can talk about bowlers. You want to talk about bowling's probably the shallowest sport I can think of. It's a flat surface. It's always the same size surface. You're playing at 69 degrees. The wind's never blowing inside there. The distance you're going is the same. The size of the ball that you're throwing down there is about the same. You can pick the 8-pounder or the 9-pounder if you're really good, the 10-pound. You can choose the size that fits your hand. You can carry your own ball and throw the same ball every time. It's a sport that literally I can go play bowling. I can go bowling, and in the course of 3 days and maybe 5 times in bowling, I think I can get a 220 or 230. But y'all can too if you're reasonably, to get a 300 and really be a pro, I get it. But it's not that hard. You want to be a golfer? I bet I've played 500 games of golf. 500, I bet. And the best I've ever got is an 83, and that one was when I had the foot wedge going, and that's when I got a mulligan. Golf is a deep and wide sport. Y'all know what I mean by this? You can play 500. I played 500 times, and the best I got is an 83. Why? Because the course undulates all over the place. It's up and down, high altitude, different kinds of grass. The wind is blowing. The wind might be raining. It's a terribly hard sport. It's just hard. Can I get an amen from somebody in here? It's a hard sport. It's a deep and wide sport. You see what I'm saying? It's a deep and wide. You can play a course in Wisconsin and come down to Texas on the same day. And it's 2 different games as far as that's concerned. The green, the thickness of the grass. There's just a gob of different things. Golf is deep and wide. Radar is deep and wide. And one of my fears is that I'm going to teach this class. And we're going to talk about refraction and super refraction, subrefraction. With a radar, you can estimate the radar tops and you can adjust the gain. You can determine the hail size probability if you have the right radar. Antenna stabilization we could talk about. You can have turbulence probability. You can have the beam width related to the parabolic or flat place antenna with an X band. It's the deep, deep, deep thing. And they gave me about 45 minutes to talk. And so what do I do with that? How do I take this deep and wide subject and come to you with anything that you can actually grasp and run off with? And that's a hard subject. So the first thing I want to tell you is don't fly into thunderstorms. The second one is there's 30,000 a day all over the globe. You got to navigate thunderstorms. So how do you do it? What do you do? So let's talk about that. We're going to talk about it, a very deep and wide subject in a very glancing way. And I hope that no one in this room says, I listened to Joe's talk and I went and flew around thunderstorms. Okay? So there you go. How can you figure out where the thunderstorms are in your airplane? Everybody knows this. The first one's either downlinkable or ADS-B radar. Okay, the second is onboard radar. What's the third? And y'all are good. I love it. Here's your eyes. And I'm telling you right now, this is the best one. The best way for you to figure out where these thunderstorms are is your eyeballs. You ought to be inside there looking out the window, figuring out where these storms are, and then trying to make the radar look like that. That's how you practice up. That's how you make things go in here. All right? And the way we do that is we take our radar and we shoot out radar energy, and then we have a catcher's mitt, which is the same device. We shoot out energy out, and we catch the energy that's bouncing back at us. If it bounces off something, If you get a little bit, it's green. A little bit more, it's orange and yellow. And the next one's red and then white. Anyway, the idea behind it, the more we get back, the more it presents right there. So that's the important part, is we shoot it out and however much comes back to us. Same thing that happens here. You can shoot it out and have it bounce back or not bounce back based upon certain things. Like if you hit water, you're not going to get much bounce back. You hit the trees, you're not going to get a whole lot. You're going to get dispersed. You see what I'm trying to say? And if you look at a PA-46, it's sort of like a flashlight. Somebody turn off the lights in here. Is there a light back there? Is there a light switch? You got your light? There you go. How many of y'all have a Scout radar in your airplane? Anybody have? I haven't seen one in a long time. I asked if I could borrow this. This is a Scout radar. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to illuminate the room very good at all. This is about all you get out of it. And if there were a bad guy in this room, that's not going to do you a whole lot of good. The other way you can look at it is a light like this. And if I'm not going to shine it in y'all's eyes, the idea behind it is I can scour this room and find out where the bad guys are. But am I going to find more bad guys in this room with that, or this, or this? And the answer is, if there are bad guys in the room, I want all the light I can get. But what kind of radar do you have on your PA-46? You can hit the lights back on if you'd like. And the answer is, these are the predominant radars that I see out there in the world today. Most of the Scouts are gone. And if you got a Scout in your wing, it's the radar that's the width of a PA-46 wing. It's a little piece of junk, and it would tell you when you're about to die. That's pretty much what it did. But if you look at these top three, they have the catcher's mitt. When we talk about a catcher's mitt, they're all about 10 inches. They're not big, is the point. If you look at a King Air or a Citation or an airliner, they got a lot bigger radar, a lot more powerful. It's sitting on the nose where there's there's two engines out on the side. We got an engine right on the front. So anytime we bolt on a radar on here, it's causing parasite drag. And the bigger the radar, the better the radar, but the slower your airplane goes. So they come up with this, basically, the answer is, this is an airliner, this is you in a PA-46. Y'all follow what I'm doing? There's better radar out in the world, and you don't have great radar in a PA-46 ever. You got good enough. The stuff we got today is way better than what we used to have, but you can see with the RDR 2000, which is in a lot of your airplanes, it's discontinued. You can't even get it anymore. But it's in a lot of your airplanes. How many of y'all have the RDR 2000? A lot of you out there. But they make better stuff today, and these are the two that I want to talk about. A couple things out there. Notice the beam width goes back to how strong this guy is. It's just not that big. There's bigger ones out here that the airliners and people like that talk about. So if you talk with an airline pilot that says, yeah, I use radar all the time and I'm doing all this, it's true, they are, but they're using a lot better radar than you got. The best radar you got is about the same catcher's mitt. We show some different colors nowadays, and then we make it pretty, but it's not really giving you a whole lot more. We can see a little wider angle, we can go out but just about as far. But then you start getting into new stuff, which is it digital? They're all stabilized, and here's where the big stuff is, the money. And we'll talk about how that works as far as the money and what I recommend you do with your money. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Of course, it's spend your money. I can spend your money really, really well. So what do you do with radar? Here's one of my first, I don't want to call it a rule, maybe it's a suggestion. Where do you put your radar? And the answer is, as far as showing your radar, how do you play your radar? If you're below 10,000, notice this is the altitudes down here, and this is the distance on the bottom. And here's the rule, or I'm gonna call it a rule, but it's not really a rule, it's a recommendation. The first recommendation is, where do you put your radar tilt-wise if you're below 10,000? And the answer is 10 up. Below 10,000, 10 up. Got it? Below 10,000. All right. And why? And the reason why is that anything that if I have it level or down, I'm just shooting into the ground. There's no chance of a thunderstorm flying up into you. So why? You tilt the thing up. And 10 up is just fine. Because if you're flying super near a thunderstorm, it's going to show up. And even at 40 miles, you'll be able to see that thing. And of course, if you're 10 up and it shows up on your radar screen, it's real. That's a bad guy. You're going to be talking about bad guys. That means a cell out there that's in the world. So below 10,000 feet, you tilt the radar 10 degrees up. Between 10 and 20, I recommend you tilt to 0. Now, the other thing I'm going to tell you today is when we talk about tilt to 0, is that a rule? And the answer is no. Is it 10 or can it be -1 or +1? And the answer is I don't care. But the idea behind it is I'm going to about 0. Why? I want to begin the process of looking down. I want to begin it because I'm between 10 and 20. And is it 9,999 feet and 10,000? No, you get the rule. It's not a science. It's an art. You're going to learn as you make this radar look like where you see on your ADS-B and your downlinkable radar, you want to make your radar look like that and then see what your eyeballs see. So between 10 and 20,000, if you'll just tilt to 0, your aiming point is about 20,000 feet at about 40 miles. If that works for some of y'all as far as the way to think through things. So 10,000 feet and below, it's 10 up. Between 10 and 20, you tilt to 0. Now, what do you do if you're above 20? And the answer is you paint half scale. Paint half scale. And we'll talk about what paint half scale looks like. But what we're looking for here, this is what bit me in the behind or hurt the lady's ankle, is because when you're above 20,000, there's a real chance of something growing up into you. And we want to see anything because remember, a thunderstorm might be growing at 50 miles an hour straight up in the sky. I want to see something. I want to aim down if I'm in an area of convection so that I can see what's going up. So I want to aim down. So I want to paint half scale. Now, what does painting half scale look like? And painting half scale looks like this. You watch this swinging back and forth. And the scale that I have is 40 nautical miles. I will tell you 40 nautical miles is perfect. 90+% of the time, I'm at 40 nautical miles. Why? Because if you go to 20 nautical miles, you're not seeing out that far. If you go to 80 nautical miles, you're not going to see a whole lot. You got downlinkable for that. 40 nautical miles is just a great place to be. So you're going to paint half scale. And what I'm doing here is painting the ground. That's all I'm doing is flying along and painting the ground. As I angle more energy at the edge, I got green, then it goes to yellow, and now I've got red. So paint half scale is the way you do it. So if you're up at altitude and you paint half scale, a bad guy might look like this. Now, if you look at it, there's a couple things that this cell is doing. And here's the key word that I'm going to say. You're going to hear me say this a couple times. But the cells will march. They'll march. Do you see what that cell's doing? Every swing of the radar, that cell moves down in our view. Watch it. You see how it moved down just a little tiny itty bitty bit? Because cells march. As you're flying along and when you're painting that cell's going to move down in your field of view. And what's that? You're getting closer to it. And that's how you can tell. This is how you're going to tell between a good guy and a bad guy. Between free flying airspace, there's nothing wrong with the air in front of you. And I've got a cell of, I got convection out there. There's that cell.
Now, if you're painting 50, or if you're at 15,000 and 0, shouldn't you be breaking up some of the ground as well?
Yes, yeah, you could, and that's where you would take your tilt and go down until you see a little ground, then come up just a little bit. And this goes back to the art. You're gonna, again, don't go to 0 because Joe said 0 and this is what he said. That's not what I'm saying. Go to 0 is a good little place to now move up and down a little bit. Play with it. There you go. Play with it. Play with it. There you go. All right. So now, what would we do? How are we going to navigate these storms? This literally happened to me. It was kind of fun because I got this. I was wondering, okay, how am I going to teach this class? And how am I going to get the radar images that I really want to be able to show that? And wouldn't you know it, it just worked out beautifully. But how would I navigate these storms? I got a mission to go from Texas all the way up to Fargo, North Dakota. Now, why would anybody want to go to Fargo, North Dakota? And the answer is it's August. And if you're in Texas, Fargo is like a heaven compared to there. But here's this big, gigantic line of storms. And what do you do? How do you navigate that line of storms? Say it again. How would you do it? Neutral winds. I mean, nothing great impact. Is there any? I'm not even going to ask. No one should fly through that. Yeah, this is absolutely a fly around scenario. Period. Case closed. There's nothing to pick through. There's no gap to shoot. There's none of that kind of stuff. This is just simply one. When you get a storm that's that size, you just simply go around the entire storm. Notice how ATC gave me the point of IRW, which is Will Rogers up by Oak City. And if you look at the radar on the right side, I'll swing it here. You can see what's going on here. Then we go look at our storms outside, and it's beautiful, lovely, nothing out in front of me. By the way, I'm in a King Air on this, so it's kind of nice. The props aren't getting in the way. It was a lovely day. King Air B100, so I'm about 20,000 feet. I'm cruising at 230 knots, somewhere along that line. But you can see the tops of the cumulonimbus way out in here. These ones in the front aren't the bad guys. This is the bad guys way out here. So, but I'm beginning to think, how am I going to get around this? And the answer is you're using your downlinkable radar to figure out where's the big stuff, and just go around the whole stinking thing. And just go around the whole stinking thing. All right. Now, what I want to know from you, now that you've talked about radar a little bit, we've given you a couple of things. Is this real? Is this return a real storm? Ready? My bearing's always vertical. Is this a real return? Yeah. Okay. So good. No, it's not vertical. I kept it horizontal the entire time. You could go vertical and do some stuff, but I'm not going to talk about that today. But look over at our downlinkable, and there's nothing. So what is this red area? It's a city. That's exactly right. And if you look at it, it's ICT. This is Wichita on the way home. So the point that I wanted to make behind this is that how do you determine between a real cell and a non-real cell? Notice it's kind of it looks dispersed. It's not a fine little hunk. Does that make sense? And anytime you see a city, you know there's going to be more returns because you're shooting at the ground. So again, we got to go back to our original thing. We're shooting energy out, we're catching whatever comes back, and we're presenting it. And now you have to interpret that. 3 ways to do it. So on this right here, I'm totally safe. No problem here at all. This is Lake Pontchartrain. I wanted to show you that doesn't matter what's out there. The water, no images came back. I'm painting the ground, and you can see exactly where the bridge is across. Yes, sir. Yep. You could, but except for what, if you're, again, 20 or above, what are we going to do? Paint half scale. I'm going to keep it right where it's at and keep painting, and just realize that there's nothing there. And as you continue to fly along, the city will pass. It's just, there can be changes in whatever you see as you look out there. Matter of fact, I'll show you another picture in just a second. Let's look at this one. This one's a really interesting slide. So the first off is this a real storm? Yeah, everybody got that right. This is a real storm. But what effect is being shown here on this radar return? Attenuation, very good. So the idea behind it here is that if you only looked at this, and that's all you saw, you'd think you got just a little bitty storm and that's all there is to it. But that's not true. See how we have to use both sides of this. We got to see both sides because all the energy hit the storm, bounced back to us, and that's what we saw. We saw nothing behind it. As a matter of fact, there's absolutely nothing behind it in terms of what you see with the radar, because the radar doesn't let you see it. So there's a bunch back here. Matter of fact, look how big the storms are that are all back in there. And this one right here, that's a real cell that's right there. It's kind of small, but it's a real cell. So what effect is the attenuation? Everybody got that one. Am I in a safe position? And that's the question you got to answer. If you're willing to go fly in an area of convection, you got to answer the question of, is the aircraft in a safe position? Now, the question is, can you look out the window and see something? At this point, you can't. But let's say you're embedded. Are we in danger right now? Maybe, but give me a more definitive answer. Okay, let's look at it. Here we go. We'll swing that radar. We're at half scale. Yes, we're in good condition. But notice these storms that are right here. These are the cauliflower-looking storms. They're all growing. None of that's benign. They're all moving up. But are you in a safe position? And the answer was yes. Right now we're in a safe position, because remember, we're taking that radar image and we're aiming it down to paint half scale. And when you aim it down, now I got a view of what's coming up inside me, coming up to me, and that image was quite clear. The dangerous part of a thunderstorm, the whole part of it's dangerous. But remember, we have this air that's just rushing up, and it could be growing up in scale. But if you have it down here, you've got it up there. If we aim at the 20,000, we know we got something below it. If we aim, does that make sense? In other words, so if I aim my radar beam at about 20, I don't have to guess. I know there's convection below it, and your job is just stay away. How far away should you stay away from a thunderstorm? 20 miles. There you go. You're going to hear that again. 20 miles. When I take off, and I'm going to hit this in a slide, but I'll go ahead and hit it right now. One of the best things you can do, number one, for practice, because I'm going to bet of the people that come see us for recurrent training, I'm going to bet most of them don't touch their radar until they're right next to a storm, very near it, need it right now. And I'm going to advocate with every single one of you that you run your radar all the time while you're flying. Exercise your system. You're not going to wear it out, not going to hurt it all. And one of the best things you can do is turn your radar on, tilt it 10 up when you're number one for takeoff and there's no one in front of you. I am not advocating, and put it at 20 miles is a fine thing. You can put it at 40 miles and I'm fine, but 20 miles is going to be a clear area. You're going to use 40 nautical miles a lot. This is one of the times I'd be at 20. But get in the practice when there's no one in front of you and you're parallel to or you're perpendicular to the runway. Turn your radar on. Get in the habit of making that part of your thing, as long as you're not spraying radar to anybody in front of you. I'm not advocating that. But when you're number one, go ahead and do that. Get in the habit of turning on that radar, swinging it, and getting your image already up there. Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. Will we clear this radar return? There's something right in front of me. Are we going to clear that thing right in front of me? Okay, let's swing it. Number one, I'm at the 40 nautical mile range. This is one of the times I'm going to roll to 20s to get a closer look. I'm still clearing everything. And so right in front of me there's a thing, but it's clear. Now let's go look out the front window. Good to go. Good to go.
Joe, what gives you confidence that that's not going to come up and get you between now and?
You're not. You're going to watch it like a hawk. That's right. And that's what happened to me with my girl that hit her leg. What are these bare spots? Yes. Who said that? Wasn't you? Wasn't Deanna, was it? Those two spots of water are right here. Because again, you got to go back. Radar bounces off of water, doesn't return back to the airplane. And so you got to learn what you see. All right, I want y'all to see the pixelation difference. Look at the pixelation difference between the ADS-B. See how big the pixelations are? And XM radio, the XM, much, much better. I don't care because I don't need a pretty picture of the bad guy. I just need to know there's a bad guy there. Let's go that way. See what I'm saying? Oh, look at the ADS-B on the left side. Notice how there's nothing there. I find more and more the ADS-B comes in late, slow, gives you a blank screen like this, and all of a sudden it'll populate back up. All right, here's my radar advice. 40 miles, that's a good, useful scale. There's the advice. Turn it on for takeoff. Remember, cells will march. Cells march, always remember that. Below 10, say it again, below 10, 10 up. 10 to 20, above 20, ding, ding, way to go. All right, big takeaways. I got 4 or 5 of them. You can take a picture at the very end. Use ADS-B or downlinkable for strategy. Use radar for tactical if you must. I am not advocating that anybody out here go out and ding around thunderstorms. I almost brought a testimonial of a pilot that got hit by a lightning strike and all the downstream problems that occurred when that lightning strike hit his airplane, where 2 years later, he's got lights that are doing weird things. It's just lightning strikes you don't want that. And I also show you a logbook entry. I almost did, but I don't want to give away the airplane, where all the boots on the front of the aircraft were all replaced, and the windshield was replaced, and the prop was, I had to go through overhaul. Guess what happened? Nope. Hail. Did not fly in a thunderstorm. He shot the gap, staying 10 miles from the thunderstorm, but flew into a line of hail. And so my point is, you can avoid the convection and still get all the problems that you don't want from a thunderstorm. Remember, a thunderstorm has every problem, every risk is icing, wind shear, updrafts, everything you can think, hail, it's all in a thunderstorm. None of you want to get there. If you go tactical, meaning you're going to go flying around a thunderstorm, you're going to not just avoid it and go around the whole thing, but you're going to go tactical. You're taking all the chips and you're pushing them into the center of the table. If you don't know what you're doing, you screw it up, you're betting your life on it. Okay? Find that, and here's the best advice I've got right here, because I learned how to run radar when I was an American Eagle pilot for 2 years, sitting in the right seat watching a captain that knew what he was doing. This is where you learn radar. There's one of the problems I got in this community is that we end up having to learn OJT. In other words, you got to go learn on your own because you don't have that person there. Go find that local jet pilot and say you'll sit right seat, throw his gear, and hand out Cokes. You'll also learn about radar. And you'll get a type rating maybe in the process if you're really good. Stay 20 miles from thunderstorms. And here's the last one, and I make no money off of this at all. But I'm telling you right now, this Garmin, the GWX 8000 Storm Optics with the auto feature is sweet. It is the best that's out there. If you're going to spend money and you fly in an area where you got thunderstorms, this is to the radar world what the GFC 600 and 700 is to the autopilot world. That is singularly the best autopilot that's out there. As good as that is in the autopilot world, this is in the radar world. You literally hit the auto feature and it does everything for you. It is brilliant. The people at Garmin came up with this. It's absolutely fantastic. And if you got nothing out of what I did today, and you own $1 million airplane or better, and you got a Garmin stuff in your panel, go spend the money. You got my green light. How much is it? It's a bunch of money. Actually, it was over here. I pulled this right off the Garmin website. Just $22,000 for the GWX 975 plus another 14. That's what it's going to run you to play the game. But I will just tell you, if you own $1 million airplane, $22,000 is a drop in the bucket. To get this kind of a feature, it is, you hit the auto button and your chances of you messing up that radar are just slim as could be. It is fantastic. Any questions of me? None? Thank you.